In today's episode, you will learn what are some of the most common insecurities current and aspiring podcasters have. And you will for sure recognize yourself in some of them. And I recognize myself in most of them as well. And we will talk about why and how you should look at those insecurities as your companions, as your competitive advantages, and use them as fuel instead of blockers that are stopping you from launching your podcast. This episode in particular hits home for me too. So I know how you feel. I know what's holding you back. I know what's stopping you, and I've got your back. This is Say Yes to Podcasting, where solopreneurs learn how to start podcasts that attract their ideal clients and do the marketing for them. I'm your host, Anja Lordanic. Say Yes to Podcasting today. Around 18 months ago, it was a while ago, I hosted a free podcasting masterclass where I talked about the most common limiting beliefs and insecurities I see in aspiring podcasters. And I explained why we should reframe them and look at them differently. And this is exactly the point of today's episode. By the end, you will look at your insecurities from a completely different lens. And most importantly, it will become crystal clear that you're the only one who's either aware of them or the only one who has something against them in the first place. No one cares as much as you do, which in this case is brilliant. It is something that we should embrace wholeheartedly. I will mention four of the most common insecurities that people have about themselves, and some of them, or most of them, are stopping them from launching their podcasts. And one of them in particular is pretty close to me, and it was a stumbling block for quite a while. And if you've been here for longer than one episode, you will see what I mean. And either way, if you recognize yourself in one of these, I hope that I will be able to debunk them, to provide you with a reframe, and to motivate you to launch your own podcast, not in spite of those insecurities, but because of them. Embrace them. Here's the first one. Who am I to have a podcast? This is something I unfortunately hear so often from aspiring podcasters. And I can tell you, all of them, all of the people who say these words out loud, who keep on asking themselves this question, are exactly the ones who should be launching their podcast. Because when you look at this, who am I to have a podcast from the lens of hardly anyone in my industry is a podcast host, there is a shift that happens. I really don't get why we, as people, as a species, tend to put ourselves down. And some groups of people, women in particular, do that more often than others. We tend to put ourselves down and play down our strengths and our knowledge and our expertise and our experience. But when you think about it, not many people in your industry have a podcast of their own, which means there's plenty of room for your podcast on the market. And even if you think that podcasting is saturated, even if your category is quote unquote saturated and there are a lot of podcasts in your specific field, there is still room for you and your voice. Which brings me to my next point, or the second insecurity I hear people repeating to themselves, which is I don't like the sound of my voice. Let me share one thing with you here. I have never tuned out of a podcast because I didn't like how someone's voice sounded. And I listen to hours and hours of podcast content every single day. I discover new podcasts almost on a daily basis. So I have heard in my lifetime, I've heard hundreds of different voices through this podcast medium, and never have I ever tuned out because someone's voice was that repulsive. Never. But if you have, you're definitely in the minority, and that is absolutely your right. You don't need to listen to anything that is not suitable for you, that you don't really like, that you don't enjoy. That's fine and well. But if you let this insecurity stop you from launching your podcast, I hope that I proved you wrong. And if you need additional encouragement, I will be yet another person who will tell you that you have your own unique voice, you have your own unique stories, and you have your own communication style that is different from the next person. And you should embrace that instead of toning it down. Let's just take a moment and realize that most of the things we're discussing today or ever in terms of limiting beliefs and insecurities are extremely subjective. Someone might enjoy your voice more than you could ever imagine, while you're the one who dislikes it and who is essentially afraid of speaking up because of that insecurity. Speaking of speaking up, here it comes. Insecurity number three that hits home for me in particular, which is English is not my first language. And I want to create content in English because I want to reach a wider audience and a lot more people than if I were only to target people in my own country or region. And this is something that has held me back for many, many months. Actually, I should say years, while in reality, no one really cares that much. And even if you're a native English speaker, listening to my voice right now, listening to the lessons I'm sharing, embracing what I'm sharing, enjoying my presentation style and the way I present certain topics and lessons and facts and hacks, that is all I can ask for. Even though you can for sure hear my accent that is a non native accent. And I've decided to embrace it. And the only reason why I keep on mentioning it in most of my episodes is because I want to motivate you too. That, as I said before, you can do the thing because of your insecurities, not in spite of them. You can take those insecurities by hand and allow them to fuel your future content and fuel your messaging. And people will love you for it. Not only that, but people love learning from coaches and mentors from different countries and different cultures. You're exactly what your market needs. So take that accent of yours, embrace it, and use it every single day to speak up and share your message proudly. And the fourth insecurity, which is similar to the previous one, and it goes as follows: I don't look like all the coaches and mentors out there. What do I mean by this insecurity? This can come in many different shapes and forms. Either people say I'm too young, I'm too inexperienced, I look different than the average Joe or average Jane, I'm part of a minority group and I'm afraid people won't take me seriously or as seriously as they do someone else. But as I said in my previous point, that is exactly why you should show up and speak up. Do you remember those children's storybooks and cartoons we used to watch when we were little? And seeing someone on the screen or on the page of that book who looks exactly like us, who represents who we are, our group. And we don't see that often. So we get super excited and we're that much more connected to that very character compared to the other ones. And this is exactly what happens in our adult life as well, both in real life and in the online space. When you see someone who looks just like you, who is thriving, who is speaking up, who is using their voice for good, who is sharing the lessons from their own perspective, even though that perspective or culture or country or region is different than most of the cases we see on the market, that is exactly the person we will be drawn to. Because not only are we able to learn from them and learn from their experiences, but they can also serve as a motivator. If they can do it, I can do it too. So if you reframe this insecurity and turn it into your fuel or your advantage or your companion, that is how it can look. So if you reframe that insecurity and turn it into something great and something valuable, you will realize that you actually have the responsibility to put your voice out there. And I can and I will keep on sharing technical tips and strategies to make your podcasting journey easier. But what we talked about today is the foundation. Because if you keep on stopping yourself from taking this podcasting leap, you're actually doing your listeners and your future clients a disservice by not speaking up, by not doing the thing. So make sure to embrace all of the insecurities you have right now, whether I listed them today or not, and use them in your stories, use them on your sales pages, in your messaging, in your posts, because that is exactly how people will connect with you. Your expertise is only one piece of the puzzle. Because if people cannot connect with you on a deeper and human level, there is no point in all the knowledge we have in the world. And I know for a fact that while you were listening to this episode, you had this one insecurity of yours in mind. Maybe I mentioned it, maybe I didn't. But if there is one thing I would love for you to do after listening to this episode, is to take that insecurity, think about it, or put it on a piece of paper, and then reframe it. Look at it differently. Take it by the hand and make it your companion going forward. Thank you for sticking with me until the very end, and I will see you in the next episode.